Okay. Good morning. We're going to start the meeting, and I'm now going to turn it over to Superintendent Addison Davis.
Mr. Davis, you're on mute. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
He's still on mute.
They can't hear anything. He said they can't hear anything. Go ahead and start.
So why don't we go ahead and get started, and
Okay,
I'll continue to work on the audio from
Yeah, that's fine,
Davis.
Mr.
When
McCauley. You can take over,
we
please.
get it fixed, we'll get him in. Yep. So we are here for a workshop to go over the most recent legislative decisions made in Tallahassee. To the board, we have a variety of staff available to answer questions. The format essentially is going to be going over each of those items very briefly. We know there's a lot to unpack in some of them, but today's workshop is really an opportunity for us to answer your questions, whatever they may be, and then opportunities later after this if there's more details that you might need. Like I said, we've got folks from across our organization to present that item and then be available for questions once all of those items are presented to you at this point.
And board members, just to set expectations and to set the stage, there are going to, it is a time to ask questions, but there are going to be some questions that can't be answered yet because in addition to the laws that have been passed, rulemaking still needs to occur at the state level. So Ms. Davis will be bringing at the workshop on August 1st probably more details, but today is a time for questions and to have your have the items presented to you.
So to the chair, if we can get the first slide up, Pablo.
I hear you now.
Oh, I think we hear Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Sorry, I had some pause in technology, but up and running now.
So at this point, we've got a few of the high impact education bills are on this particular slide. This does not represent all of those bills that ultimately impact our work in some way, but we felt like these were the ones that you might have the most interest around, as well as the public. So today's session will focus on these high impact items. Ms. Davis, are there additional items that will be unpacked for the board?
Not this morning, but
Okay.
certainly we'll stick to the PowerPoint, but then we'll open it up for discussion and Q&A, and we certainly can.
So we can, if it's all right with the board chair, welcome. We will jump right in to the first opening.
Okay. Good morning.
Mike, can I say something first?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Davis, absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you for the flexibility for allowing me to virtual in today, have an opportunity to be on a panel with FADS along with the Department of Education, really talk about safety for the state of Florida and how we implement it with Hillsborough County. In addition today, as Mr. McCauley talked about, they are big high impact educational bills from school board implementation to academic excellence implementation and what we have to do on the ground with content and curriculum. Looking at what the new legislation will work through talent management related to new drop incentives, and then also transition about how we will be impacted from a financial perspective and an operational capital outlay perspective as well as we start to look through not only finances but choice as well, and then going into some of the supportive organizational culture content that we'll have to be able to better understand as we implement. So thank you, Kristen Davis and our team, where they stand ready and prepared to be able to articulate what new legislation looks like for us and how we implement it in the 23-24 school year. And at this time, I'll transition to Kristen Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Davis and board members. Good morning. So I will, if we can get the PowerPoint back up, and we'll go ahead and get rolling. And we will start, I'm going to back up real quick. No surprises here, board members. These are the three school board member related bills that you're very familiar with. House Bill 411 signed into law on May 17th that now a candidate for school board must be a resident of the district they are running in when they assume office as opposed to when they run for office. Term limits, House Bill 477 signed into law on May 9th. As you know, last year, the legislative body put into law for the first time in many years 12-year term limits. So this year, what goes into effect now is 8-year term limits. The only change was just a strike through of the 12 and the number 8 put in. Therefore, it's still effective for the November 8th, 2022 and beyond. And then finally, House Bill 31, partisan elections for school board members. That actually is a resolution, a joint resolution. So therefore, it doesn't go, it's not subject to the governor's veto powers and actually goes to the voters in 2024 at the general election. And if 60% or more receive voters approve, then it goes to the 2026 general election. All right, so we will go ahead and start with House Bill 1 and Finance. Ro Johnson.
Good morning, board members. I'll be covering House Bill 1, School Choice. It's the finance portion. It was signed into law March 27th, 2023. It expands the eligibility for the Florida Tax Credit and the Family Empowerment Scholarship to include students who are residents of Florida and are eligible to be in K-12 education. It also this scholarship expands to those who increase the eligibility for students whose households income exceeds 185% of the poverty level, federal poverty level, and does not exceed 400%. It also established a Parent Direct Education Program, PEP, which limit the enrollment for 2024 school fiscal year to 20,000 and to 40,000 the years thereafter. Also, for students that are disabled, it increased this fiscal year the growth from 1% to 3%. It also reduced the regulation to the Florida Early Learning 20 Education Code. That's the capital outlay, allow the following for salaries and benefits for those who qualify for that. The financial impact for the Hillsborough County Public School is not known at this time because it's 20,000 students all over Florida, so we don't know how many of our students will participate in this Family Power Scholarship or HB1 bill.
Okay, we'll go and transition now to the second slide for House Bill 1, and Marie Whalen will jump in. This is all around the deregulation items and educator certification flexibility.
So we are very excited about these updates with the opportunity to retain our educators. And the particular legislative changes is to remove barriers for the teacher certification process, and it extends the validity period of select temporary certificates from 3 years to 5 years. The HCPS impact on that, our current temporary certification holders through 2023, we have a total of 379 educators that this will assist, and that includes 146 that are in our charter. We do also track our charter teacher certification as well. For the 2024 impact, we have 583 educators that will be impacted with that extension. And then for 2025, we have 744 educators currently with a temporary certification. So it has really helped us, and obviously this went into effect immediately on March the 22nd and became an automatic eligibility. The DOE provided a very detailed memo to districts on May the 5th that also outlines some other details and specifics that I will be reviewing with the leaders at the Leadership Institute next week as well.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on to slide 7 into our academic excellence section, which is House Bill 1069 titled Education, and Ashley Capucci will highlight this for us.
Sure. There are several layers to 1069, and so we'll just go over them separately. Also, more is to come on some of the parts of the layers due to more conversation about our plan as a district. But when it comes to defining sex, there is now a definition with how we can define sex, and it's found in the Florida Early Learning Education Code. What we can do and not do when it comes to pronouns, and then also prohibits instruction on sexual orientation, gender identity. This kind of expands the parental's rights in education. And now it's pre-K through 8th grade, except when required by the required instruction statute. And also the other one that you see there, the 1003.46, that's the HIV education. It also expands on the 9th through 12th grade, but it must be age appropriate or developmentally appropriate in accordance with state standards, which we do know there's new standards coming. It also requires the school district to post on its website the policies to notify parents and procedures if there's a change in the student service. And then now what's different from before, excuse me, is we used to have to provide our materials, and the board used to be able to approve materials. The materials will now go to the DOE for approval, and so we're just waiting for more guidance on that. And then requires health instruction to include the biological males impregnate biological females. The impact for us is we will just have to wait on approval from DOE, and once we get that, we'll move forward. Also, when it comes to policy, we will have to look at our policy 2417, depending on the feedback that we get from DOE.
Okay, and we're going to cover the following two slides, correct, at the workshop on the 26th?
Yes, the following two will be communicated on the next workshop.
Great. And then, so slide 10, still on House Bill 1069, Ashley addressed it briefly. The preferred title pronoun usage, Araceli Martinez-Pena will highlight that for us, please.
So this part of HB 1069 is basically laying out the changes to the use or adding statute 1000.071, personal titles and pronouns. And essentially it's saying that employee, contractor, students may not be required being the key component to this, to refer to another person using that person's preferred personal title or pronoun. The second part of it adds that a student may not be asked to provide his or her preferred personal title or pronoun, and adds a component of it to say that students are not to be penalized or be subjected to discriminatory treatment if they do not want to provide their pronoun. And then the third component of it is an employer or contractor may not provide to a student his or her preferred personal title or pronoun if these pronouns or personal titles do not correspond to his or her sex. So we will be updating the LGBTQ Critical Resource Guide as appropriate and develop training for school staff.
Okay, thank you. So House Bill 1537, titled Education. We'll move into that one next on slide 11. This was one of the train bills that had about 40 different sections of it. Many of the sections included bills that were standalone bills, for example, the year-round pilot school program, a number of things. We're going to focus on a few components related to concordance scores and graduation rates and scores, and that will be Teacher Welch for us. Thank you.
Good morning. To codify the concordant and comparative score requirements, bullet number 1 provided additional measures by which students graduating during the 2022-23 school year can meet their assessment graduation requirements. It also clarified the concordant and comparative scores that can be used for students who enter grade 9 during 2020-21 school year. So that's our next year seniors and beyond. And then finally, it allowed students who entered grade 9 in 2020, 2021 and beyond an additional option to meet the assessment graduation requirements through the use of the Classic Learning Test. The second bullet added a new grading component for elementary schools. Currently, the school grade component for elementary school achievement level capture the achievement level 3 and higher for ELA, math, and science. Starting in spring 2024, it will add a 4th achievement level measure where it will capture the percent of students earning level 3 or higher for grade 3 only.
All right. Okay, thank you, Deidre. We're going to stick with House Bill 1537 for just one moment with one more slide with Cinzia covering a few charter school provisions for us.
Good morning. So this part of the bill modifies the eligibility criteria for charter schools to receive capital outlay. Currently, a charter school that has any of the following criteria is not eligible for capital outlay, and that is a grade of F, 2 consecutive grades lower than a C, and a school improvement rating of unsatisfactory. So we do have a few charter schools that are currently not receiving capital outlay. But starting in July 2023, the eligibility criteria changes and expands a little bit. So the schools who have 2 consecutive grades of F will not be eligible, 3 consecutive grades below a C, and 2 consecutive school improvement ratings of unsatisfactory. So the new language allows for a broader criteria to receive the funds.
All right, thank you. So, slide 13, House Bill 7039, Student Outcomes. Tracy Bergman will highlight the next few slides for us.
Sure. Good morning. So House Bill 7039 is the Student Outcomes Bill, and it contains components for both reading and math. So we'll talk a little bit about both of them because I'm representing Jack and his team as well this morning. So for the reading side, some of this isn't new. It's been kind of spoken about at previous meetings and with previous purchases that we've made through the board. But it does state that instructional materials for all foundational skills instruction must be grounded in the science of reading, and that the 3 cueing system of reading, which relies heavily on visual memory, picture cues, skipping words, etc., cannot be a basis for word reading instruction. There's an element about the pre-K curriculum saying across VPK programs, whether they be private or public, that the curriculum does need to support early literacy and math skills, as well as build a content knowledge building piece that aligns also to what the best standards are across K-12. And that the DOE will assist with approving state-adopted and state-approved curriculum materials to be used in addition as supplemental to the core materials. This will include dyslexia-specific interventions as well. In addition, this bill also extended the eligibility of the New Worlds Book Initiative, where parents of Tier 2, Tier 3 substantial deficiency students could apply for the free book every month. That will be extended down into VPK students. In addition, the K-12 reading plan beginning next school year, so not the one for the 23-24 school year, but the 24-25 school year, will need to include information regarding literacy coach placement, as well as highly effective teacher assignments in grades K through 2. It continues, a big piece of this bill is about students with a substantial reading deficiency, and it does state that a parent of any K-3 student who exhibits a substantial reading deficiency and or the characteristics of dyslexia must be notified in writing of the student's deficits. They must include the interventions that are being provided to the student, as well as the progress monitoring tool and data, and this must be reported monthly. Students that are not meeting these expectations must either have a progress monitoring plan or a federally approved plan, such as an IEP. This also states that interventions must be provided during the school day to these students, not through ELP or other outside sources, but during that school day, and it must include explicit and systematic instruction and targeted toward the student needs. It also addresses students who are what we consider double retention students in grade 3. In other words, they've been retained in grade 3 and have a previous grade retention, that we do need to have, where applicable, an acceleration program to try to get those students to where they need to be, that is not only level appropriate, but age appropriate as well. And then it also addresses instructional strategies and professional development, and states that the professional learning on foundational skills, we must include the science of reading research behind it. For mathematics, Mathematics is now being added kind of into that mix of where reading has been since the passing of House Bill 7011 last year, where it added substantial math deficiency to the early warning system. And so it does require parent notification for substantial math deficiency and or characteristics of dyscalculia. The student progression plan must include the deficiency or characteristics of dyscalculia. And again, just like in reading, there is a requirement of the progress monitoring plan, progress monitoring tools, and interventions. The state, through the DOE and FCR STEM, will compile resources to support and make recommendations to support the district in the future for preparing teacher candidates as well as our staff in terms of what does that look like and what teacher training and professional learning opportunities would best be suited. So what is the impact on HCPS? So some of it is already in progress because we were kind of on top of the science of reading shift as we've been following this bill for quite a while. So providing the professional development to teachers, district administrators, school administrators on the science of reading. That began earlier and will continue throughout the summer. We purchased in May the Explicit Systematic Foundationals program of UFly, as well as the screener of DIBBLES that can be used to screen for dyslexia in the elementary reading grades, as well as dyscalculia in grades K through 3 for math. We do have a progress alert and progress plan that we use that has been part of our process since last year, but it will need to be updated to incorporate that language of characteristics of dyslexia and include options for programs to make sure that they truly are aligned to that explicit and systematic instruction and not the use of the 3 queuing system. There will also need to be some tightening of the school process for school level staff to purchase materials through their school funds, be it Title I or whatever funding source, to ensure that they too are in alignment with the bill. For mathematics, for students scoring below a level 3 or proficiency at grade levels, we need to identify assessment and criteria for determining the nature of a student's difficulty, the areas of academic need, and strategies providing academic supports, as well as determining and developing that early warning system for students that may have that substantial math deficiency and or dyscalculia. We do need to think about how that can be provided within the school day and or outside of the school day, as math is allowed to provide their small group instruction outside of the school day as well. And we do have to develop that parent notification plan in the area of math, very similar to what we already do in literacy. So in terms of policy updates, we need to work on the student progression plan to ensure that it includes the mathematics piece, as well as that dyscalculia and dyslexia screening piece. We need to make sure that our language regarding early warning indicators is also updated, and that we have the addition of the acceleration course guidance for that 3rd grade student that may have the double retention.
All right, thank you, Tracy. We are going to move on to Senate Bill 240, Education, with Scott Brooks. This, just to give you some context, 2 years ago in the legislative session 2021, House Bill 1507 was introduced, and so this is kind of, I would say, an overhaul and a revision from that bill, and Scott will highlight it for us.
Thank you so much. Good morning. So one of the first highlights of this bill is that we now are required for all of our high schools to have a work-based learning program. And so we'll be moving forward with that as we move forward. We're also required to have annual career fairs at every single high school. The good news for us is we've been partnered with the Career Academy for a long time with Yvonne Fry, and we've been doing this for several years. So several of these things we already have in place, and I think we'll just continue to grow. The other one is the district-controlled open enrollment process. This is a requirement so that students have the ability to move and take advantage of different CTE programs. In our district, we've had a very robust magnet program and different programs for several years, but this is something that they want to make sure that the students have the ability to go and take the classes that they're interested in, the CTE programs. Parental notification of acceleration, academic, and career planning options. So this is something that they want to make sure that we're getting the word out to parents, that we have all these things in place, that we do some of these things. And so that's something that we'll continue to move forward with. Middle grades career and education planning course. We currently have that, and we will, it's taught through our social studies department, and we will continue to work with that and make sure that our curriculum is in line with the new changes that will come down from DOE. sorry, I lost my place there for a minute. The next one is the CAPE Digital Tools certificates. In past, the state had really limited how many options we had, and now they have opened this up so that our CAPE Digital Tools, these are K8 industry certifications, and now they've basically taken all the restrictions off so that there are many more options available to our students across the state. Another new one is the high school arts credit will now include CTE courses. So in years past, some of our students may have to leave one of their CTE programs to go take a course. Now they don't have to. Their CTE program will now count as one of those graduation requirements. Career education course that also satisfy high school requirements. Every year there's been a list that comes out of the different CTE courses that meet some of the different high school requirements. This comes to us every couple of years, and so hopefully they'll continue to add more classes so that more of our students can graduate. Work group to convene on pathways. Every year the state looks at it and they convene work groups all over to make sure that the programs we offer are aligned with what the state needs truly are in the workforce. So they want to make sure that we're teaching programs and we're teaching things that there are outcomes that students can get hired and can get jobs in our community. It renames the merit designation to industry scholars designation. That's just a name change. CAPE Industry certification funding list. So they have added some new certifications. Every year they take a few off and they add a few more. So this is always a kind of a moving target for us. The next one is weighted funding. This is a big one. They're actually it hasn't been done yet, but they're working on all the papers and the information that will come down from DOE. But we're going back to where our courses will be funded again, and they'll be weighted. So we will have additional FTE for those automotive welding courses that are so expensive. It's been a long, long time since we've had that. That is a key component to this bill. And I think that long-term this will help us. Also, part of this weighted funding, there will be bonus funding if students complete the entire program. So if students go through all 3 welding classes or all 3 business classes, then there's additional funding on top of the weighted funding for that. So we're excited to see the rules that come down for that and how we can implement. But we do expect this to be a large increase financially for our district. Educator certification, master in-service plan. I'll just touch real quickly that they are trying to get more business folks to be able to come into education and help make that transition a little bit smoother. And then the other one I have here is that technical colleges now can legally offer the AAS or AS degree program. Specifically, nursing is the one that everyone is looking at, RN, as long as we have a formal agreement with one of the other Florida college systems. So the impact for us is we just will be increasing a number of sites that are offering OJT. We currently have 23. We'll be moving that up to 32. Continue in our regional career fairs with high school seniors. We'll be coordinating with counseling services on all the career education requirements. And then the increased funding through industry certifications and course completers will be a large financial impact. Just the middle school CAPE tool change, if that would have happened a year ago, would have been about $250,000 in extra funding that would have went to our schools.
Thanks, Scott. We're going to move into exceptional talent and start off with House Bill 1035 with Marie Whalen.
So this particular House bill expands opportunities for teacher recruitment and retention and clarifies some of the teachers' rights that you will notice in this. So it talks about the teacher preparation programs to be eligible for what they're calling the buy one, get one for a tuition and then a fee waiver to go with that. Expands dual enrollment educator scholarship program. This is to assist our high school teachers to be able to teach our college level classes, and they can teach them right there at our schools sites for the dual enrollment credit. The teacher apprenticeship program is now established as well as another pathway for individuals to enter the teaching profession. It waives teacher certification, the initial exam and fees for specified retired first responders. It establishes the Heroes in the Classroom bonus program to provide a one-time sign-on bonus as well to select retired first responders and veterans who become full-time classroom teachers. And then some of these shift to some highlights regarding teacher rights and students. So it also requires a principal to impose consequences on a student only after determining that the student has violated the student code of conduct and it requires the principal to notify the teacher of any action that's taken. It creates a new statute that will catalog a number of teachers' rights that are already currently guaranteed in law regarding employment opportunities, and then also authorizes the Office of the Inspector General to investigate allegations of suspected violations of a student's, parents, or teacher's rights. So we would be coordinating all of those areas with our chief of schools, Ms. Burkett, our regional superintendents, and then our school leaders. We do not believe that there would be a required policy update or any policy implications at this current time. Our next one is House Bill 1125, which creates or adopts an interstate teacher mobility compact model legislation into Florida statute. This will have an impact across states that decide to join the particular compact, and it establishes the framework for teachers to have, if they've earned certification in one state, that then could be recognized in another state for their teacher licensure. There are some special exceptions that are also noted in this particular House bill, specifically as it relates to our military staff members, retirees, and military spouses. It also, to piggyback onto what Mr. Brooks already shared, the career and technical education teaching licenses that also do not require a bachelor's degree as a requirement, this compact would also allow those to be recognized for our teachers coming to us from other states. So hopefully this will provide just another opportunity for us to recruit educators into the school district. Continuing, next we have Senate Bill 7024, which was just recently signed into law, as you see there, on June the 5th. And this has been something that you all have been talking about on your legislative platform related to DROP. Not particularly all of the pieces of it yet, but we're making great headway. So this particular Senate bill increases the time for folks in the DROP to go from 5 years to 8 years now. And there's an additional 24 months available for instructional personnel through June the 30th. And it now takes off that age requirement for when personnel need to enter the DROP. And then we will have a financial impact that I believe Ms. Johnson is going to speak to with this legislation as well for the increase in the Florida retirement system rates.
The impact for our fiscal year is projected for fiscal year 23-24 is $15,300,000 based on the people we have employed as of today.
All right, and Ro, don't go too far away because we're going to move into fiscal responsibility, and we'll start with you with House Bill 633, K-12 education on class size.
Okay, House Bill 633, it repeals the class size reduction penalty for all classes or schools that exceeds the class size maximum, but it still maintains the requirement for Florida Department of Education to monitor to ensure compliance and ensure that the districts still submit a compliance plan. But it waives the penalty, the impact to Hillsborough County Public Schools. If we don't meet class size, the penalty is waived. So House Bill 1259, this is school district that levies capital millage. It requires that a calculation to determine the amount of revenue that a school district must also share with the charter schools. And it gives the calculation. If we turn to the next page, I'll go through the calculation. So based on our projected capital outlay for FTE for our district is 197,000 students. Charter's FTE is 35,248. We add those two together and get us a total count of 233,000. Then we calculate the amount, and this is a projection of what we'll receive in capital outlay. It's over $257 million. We got to reduce the debt payments that the district pays yearly. That's $67 million worth of debt. We calculate that. So what is valuable after we've do that reduction of 67 million, it's 190 million that needs to be distributed to charter school as well as ourselves. So we take that 190 million and divide it by the number of students. That give us the rate for each student, which is 815. So we multiply the 815 by the number of charter school students would give us 28 million. If that was 100%, that's how much we would have to share with charter school. But the law say we only give 20% of that the first year. So that equates to 5,747,000 that we have to share with charter school. And each year after, we have to increase that by 20% until we get 100% outlay to charter school. So the Senate Bill 2500 is our state allocation for our base student allocation. We're moving from a rate of 4,587 to a rate of 5,139. It's an increase of 552. But what's embedded is the categoricals. So as you can see listed, part of that increase has the categoricals that they're not funding us for, which is our reading categoricals for last fiscal year was around 12.5 million. Instructional materials is now embedded in the formula. Our teacher salary increase allocation is embedded also in the formula. Our classroom supplies and our turnaround school supplement, which the impact for Hillsborough gives us a total increase from the state for allocation of $43,741,941. But we do have other categoricals that remain, and they listed below. Our supplement academic instruction still is not embedded in the formula. Mental health, safety school, transportation, ESE, class size reduction, DJJ, and our federal connected student supplement. And this is the long PowerPoint, so we can give you a detailed analysis how we do the calculation for the Florida State allocation of our appropriations. And as you can see, those columns, we're comparing 22-23 fiscal year to our current 23-24. If you see it in the red, that means there was a reduction or it is embedded in our base allocation. As you go down, and if you see a plus, that means we had an increase in this fiscal year of the allocation. But I want to go to the next slide, which is slide 31, and point out particularly Family Empowerment Scholarship. As you can see, it's in the red, but that's a reduction overall to our allocation. So in 22-23 was given $83.5 million. Now we add $1,074 million that we're going to Family Empowerment Scholarship. So that's an increase of 52.5, but it looks like a reduction overall, but it's a reduction in our funding source. So if you go to the next page, our total local funding has increased by 73.1 million. Our state funding increased by 43.7. Our overall potential funding for this fiscal year will be 116.8. So the next page shows the impact of that 116.8, because even though we're getting an increase from the state, we still have to find those categoricals that was removed, because we still have expenditures that are attached to that. We have a charter school potential increase based on their projection. Our FRS rate has increased based on the slide that Marie showed, the FRS rates going up. Our benefits have increased to 18 million. And the overall impact of all these increases, 130.6 million, will give us a negative 13 million overall in our budget.
Thank you, Ro. Board members, we're going to move on to slide 34, House Bill 443, Education, which is their charter school-related bill, and Shinsia DeLange will highlight that for us, please.
Yes, HB 443 modifies language, the actual language in the charter law, Florida Statute 1002.33, affecting the following. Any SS school safety officer assigned to charter schools will have lottery preference to enroll their child to the school they're assigned to. Some charter schools might have a criterion of student eligibility based on its academic program. For example, an IB school now may dismiss a student after one semester if academically he or she is not meeting the academic standards of that program. The bill now allows for charter schools with common governing boards to transfer dollars outside of the county to other schools. The loan must be repaid, though, within 5 years, and of course the charter office will monitor this via monthly financials and annual audits. Requires the district to make payments and reimbursements such as ESSER funds within 60 days of the charter school submitting the request. And now the district is mandated to submit each year by September 1st a list of services provided to the charter schools based on the administrative fee that we collect from the schools. And the teacher classroom supply assistance program allocation may be given now to a substitute teacher in a charter school or a school administrator placed in the role of a classroom teacher.
Well, thank you, Chintzia. And we're going to move into the last slide that's part of the PowerPoint presentation. And Araceli will highlight this for us. House Bill 1521, facility requirements based on SEC. Araceli, please. Thank you.
This one, HB 1521, creates the Safety and Private Spaces Act. Basically saying our Code of Student Conduct will now include disciplinary procedures for any student who willfully enters a restroom or changing facility and refuses to depart when asked to do so. We will have updated language in the Student Code of Conduct that's currently being vetted by legal and waiting on DOE rulemaking.
Board members, that represents a lot, and we apologize for how much we've put on you. We hope that some of the supplemental materials gave you an opportunity to dig a little deeper into it, but much of what Tallahassee did this year simply codifies best practices that we've been doing anyway. There's some new things, obviously, that we will implement according to law, and certainly once the State Board of Education adopts their rules. So at this time, we will open up to any questions you might have. We've got our team in front of us, so we look forward to helping you out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCulley. And before we get started, thank you, Kristen Davis, for the countless hours of work of putting this all together. I mean, it was a lot of details, and it was extremely informative, and I know we'll all use that folder as a resource throughout the year. Thank you, everyone else, for coming and for participating and for informing us. We'll go ahead and begin with questions. Everybody will have 5 minutes to make sure we have a couple rounds. We'll begin with Member Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Davis and esteemed staff members. And Mr. McCauley, indeed, this is a lot. In fact, I spent hours and hours going through every one of them, and I would have liked to have one-on-ones with an attorney to explain. I have a lot of questions, and I know board members also have the same amount of challenge in terms of questions. I do hope that after this meeting that we will have a one-on-one with attorneys and staff members to dig a little deeper. I understand that rulemaking has not been done or finished yet. I also understand that there are 3 workshops, rulemaking workshops, that will be taking place in 2023-2024, and I have recommended to not only Kristen and Jim Porter, our attorney, and the superintendent, that we have our lobbyists take part in the details of rulemaking. The devil's in the details, right? I also understand that the procedures from Superintendent Davis, in light of all of these bills, certainly haven't been, I'm sure they've been discussed, but not, put into the words that perhaps will be shown. So there is still a lot to be done and a lot to be, as Mr. McCauley says, codified. My question first is always finance. When we talk about, and this goes to Roe and Mr. McCauley, tell me how to direct the questions if it's not to the actual folks. Ms. Romanier, I have, and you and I talked about this, with the FTE loss estimated $259 million, but we only have 282 students that we're projecting so far for the count, the first count, day 5. But we are projecting losing quite a bit of students. There's no question. There's a yearly cost of $36.7 billion for each year, the teacher yearly step increase. Yearly cost of $12.5 million to share our capital funds with charter schools. A yearly cost of over $4 million or more, as I said, with the cheeks in the seats loss. Schools, we do not have the ESSA grant to rely on. The Florida retirement system, a loss, expenditure of $15 million. Utilities, as we all can understand, everything's going up, another $5 million. Benefits will go up $18 million. Instructional materials will go up $18.5 million. And I can go on and on. But to this point and to the question, how will we sustain our fiscal ability for Hillsborough County Public Schools when we have more than a $500 million drain? That is just an estimate, but the figures have been given. Can you give us a little bit of an answer on that and hopefully a comfort level?
Well, we're currently building the tentative budget. We don't have any affirmative answers for our appropriation because we haven't levied, or set the actual, what our rate of levy is going to be for our rate overall for the district to levy for capital or for our general millage. So we're waiting for those numbers to solidify those numbers before these are not the final numbers that is embedded in this presentation. But we do have a fiscal recovery plan that still is enacted overall in the district. And we do have vacancies that the district have. We would have to look at our structure and see if those vacancies are needed based on our number of students that enroll. All that goes into building the budget. And when we get there, we'll see where we fall out. But right now, in our tentative budget, we're projecting a deficit because we don't have there's too many unknowns are out there as far as our enrollment and where we're going to land at overall for our budget.
And it's understood and appreciated, but you did give the figures in this synopsis, and the figures I gave of $315 million were also agreed previously in our conversation. So there is a money drain. We can't escape that, and I don't want us to. I want us to have the reality in front of us. My other question to Ms. Johnson, is that Mr. Davis, Superintendent Davis? Did I hear your voice?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Raise my hand. So thank you through the chair. Thank you so very much, Ms. Johnson. The other thing is the reality of it is once we better understand where we are in the 20-day count, we're just going to have to make adjustments to our workforce. If we're losing a significant number of students, and as Ms. Johnson talked about, looking at vacancies and particularly using those vacancies first, but being able to make further adjustments not only at the school-based level but also at the district level as well. So being very mindful of where we are financially to be able to make certain that we stay within the what we generate versus what we expend, and not going back to past practices that put us in a situation where we had to overcome. So I just want to make certain we're clear that we may have to go through that. We will be very careful and compassionate and graceful if we have to make those decisions, but we'll make certain that the board's informed along the way as every step that we'll have to make those adjustments.
I thank you for that. And also the base student allocation, we have the increase, but we also know the reality is there's expenditures. And could you enumerate those expenditures which will actually decrease the plus value of the base student allocation?
Well, there's always charter school, the enrollment charter school. Then we got HB1, which is a potential loss of students. And then we have the Family Empowerment Scholarship that we know now is over $1 billion that is allocated for students outside of the district also. And we have to look at our enrollment and make sure that we're living within our class size, language, and also our enrollment is held up.
Okay, thank you. Second question, and then I'll run out of time. This goes to Dr. DeLange. One more question for Ms. Johnson. The question is, when we have a child coming from a low-performing charter school, which they already have said, as you know, House Bill 1, so that they can be removed, they can go to another school. So another school might be our public school. And then they may also, that same child may, from the $8,000, may be okay to go to a private school. So, and then there's the homeschooling. So you have all these different fiefdoms. How are we staffed to keep track of where the FTE child, for lack of better words, how are we staffed to keep track of that money as it impacts not only the individual school site, but our budget?
What happens is we get calculation from the state, and when the calculations change, we have each quarter we do a calculations, and when that calculation changes, the state has to give up the funding to wherever those students are, wherever they land. So at the end, we get a true up, they true up our budget, and then the final calculation, if students come to us from the charter school, then we receive those fundings.
But do we have a mechanism?
Yes, we have a count. We have a counting system where we count, and then I verify, and this is submitted to the Florida Department of Education. We verify the calculations are correct, and we do have the Family Empowerment Scholarship Department that makes sure that students that are counted is trued up with the IT department, and we do that process throughout the year to ensure that we're counting students accurately, and we're receiving the funding associated with those students.
And I thank you, and I also want to thank your finance department. It's a skeleton crew. You do so much, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. DeLange, just real quick, on the bill that you see on, excuse me, whoop, my time is up. I'll get back in the queue. So the suspense is heightening, right? All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. There's no time, so if you want to finish up, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, my
Then
question.
so that way we can rotate. Yep.
Yeah, my question is the the House Bill 1537. Let me make sure this one. How does the bill apply to charter schools? Now, when it says that charter schools can dismiss students for poor performance and then come to our schools, what measures do we take in accepting these low-performing students? So the whole idea is they have the right, or the law behind them, to dismiss low-performing students. This is the charter schools I'm talking about. And then we must accept them. Perhaps you can clarify that, because it doesn't sound like a very fair proposition.
Sure, and I think a clarification is needed. So the application itself, the charter application, would outline the academic program. So not just any charter school may do dismiss academically. In fact, by law, they're not allowed to dismiss academically. But if a charter school, and currently we don't have any with this type of application, they outline an academic program, maybe such as Blake or an IB school, although we do have IB charter schools. They can outline the criteria in the application that will suffice for a dismissal after the first semester. So it's not just any of them. It's just based on the application. So we would have to go back to the application if they do dismiss by academics and monitor that they're doing so lawfully.
Okay, and this is stated actually in House Bill 433 that charter schools will be dismissing low-performing students. And I don't, I don't want to dwell too much deeper into that because you might not have it in front of you. So that's a perspective that that worries me. But you're on top of it, Dr. DeLange. You sound like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Again, it's not all charter schools. It's only those that have an approved application with a particular academic program.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, should I go ahead and shift gears and let Member?
We'll go ahead and if you can come back around. Go ahead, Member Vaughn. Member Vaughn.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
I appreciate it. I have a couple comments. I just want to clarify that when we're talking about the financial challenges due to this legislation, what I'm hearing from Superintendent Davis and Ms. Johnson is that we'll have to look at cutting positions, right? That we'll have to look at how many students we have and whether or not we have the enrollment and the attendance to justify the positions that we have. But I just want to clarify that a lot of our vacancies and where I'm afraid that we're going to see the biggest hit are our marginalized communities in general, where we're already struggling to make sure that we can staff those, as we've seen with our conversation of Just Elementary. So going forward, as we kind of talk about this and collapsing positions, I'd like to be very mindful and very transparent about how this is affecting our marginalized communities as opposed to the rest of our academic communities. The next thing I wanted to kind of point out is, I'm just really confused about this legislation, especially when we're looking at our LGBTQ plus population and how, everything that I see looks like the antithesis of this great freedom we talk about here in the state of Florida. I mean, from my understanding, and we can dive more on this on our one-on-ones, but kids can't even identify pronouns, what they feel comfortable with. If they, insist on using a bathroom or a locker room with the gender they identify with, not even district-wide, statewide, they'll be penalized. I mean, just to talk about freedom and then go after our LGBTQ plus population like this is just mind-boggling. The other thing I wanted to just kind of mention to follow up with Member Gray is I know that you've been asking about the counts and, the transfer back between charter school students to our traditional schools. And I know that it has been part of our platform, and one of our legislators actually took it up to have more counts so we can accurately capture the money. The money can actually accurately follow the student. But I know from our legislative update that we weren't actually able to get that passed. And I know that with our last count, we provided the numbers, and then the state came back and said, well, that count isn't right. You're actually missing these students, and we had to adjust our budget. So I'm hoping as we go forward, since we have so few counts in general, we'll actually be able to have a better communication with the state to understand why when we give them the number, they come back and say, no, actually you're 3,500 students short, and we're taking more money out of your budget, and what that looks like. But for my questions, I really want to understand the categorical, because it sounds like our per pupil funding has gone up, and I know that's going to make a lot of news, and people are going to be confused. Hey, you just got all this money per pupil, but from my understanding, what I'm hearing is the categoricals that we usually got additional funding for are now being merged into this formula and are all coming out of our per pupil spending. So while they might have increased that, defunding the other categoricals that we got money for actually means that we won't have more money or flexibility in our general fund per pupil. I mean, it's just kind of taking the categoricals that they were giving us money and giving it to us there. We still have to spend it on those things, so it's not even necessarily more flexibility. So am I understanding that correctly?
That is
correct.
Yes, the categoricals are embedded in our BSA. It makes our BSA look more inflated, but in actuality, we still have expenditures that are associated to those categoricals. But we have to work as a partnership with those teams and look at where their expenditures are happening. It gives us some flexibilities if they're not spending all the money to use it on other things that's needed by the district.
Okay. So in those areas like instruction, materials, they would either have to cut their budget to give us flexibility, or we would have less money or the same amount of money. The other question that I have is the lottery for charter schools. Did you say that if there is a security officer or police officer on the charter school campus, that their children automatically bypass the lottery system and get into the charter school? Is that part of this legislation?
I'm going to clarify that. They are eligible for preference in the lottery system. So each kind of like our magnet school lottery system, the charter schools have a preference list, and the SSOs assigned to that particular charter school will be part of that preference list. So they don't automatically surpass the lottery, but they're part of that preference list.
So can we get, as board members, something that helps clarify what that preference list looks like compared to our own, and really help parents understand, like, lottery systems and what preference looks like, and have more conversation about that, because I get a lot of questions from our community about that. And then in closing, I just would love to ask formally that we provide this information, whether it's a summary, a PowerPoint similar to this, that we send this out to our families as well as our employees, so that they can, in the full name of transparency, access all of the state laws that are changing and get an understanding of what's coming down from the state. Because a huge disconnect that I see is families frustrated with a lot of changes that are state mandated, who come and want to be able to advocate at the school board. And, as you can see with a lot of this legislation, our hands are tied. And I know that they would like to be able to actively advocate for whomever is making these decisions. So if we can provide a link and send that out, just like we do with report cards, like here are the changes, so that people who want to understand that can, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for all of your hard work and for taking my questions.
So to the chair, we will put together this in a manner that the general public can consume, and then give them links to where they can dive a little deeper.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. I know Superintendent Davis, you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am. And one of the things I'd say is that we know the last couple of years we've been very unapologetic about addressing schools that need additional staffing. So schools that have may have historical underperformed, or may have had community needs based on whether it be to address climate and culture, to be able to address interventions through literacy or mathematics or science. We've really worked to be able to work through Sue and Shay and regional superintendents and principals to be able to give those schools what they need from a staffing perspective. So we'll continue to make sure we review every school within our district to determine the overarching needs they need to be able to move the needle instructionally and culturally, and be able to protect those schools related to staff and allocations. And from our perspective, as we continue to look at categoricals that have been put into the basic student allocations, those verticals will continue to unpack all their budgets and determine what needs to remain, or what we can selectively abandon or strengthen in that process, to make certain that services do not discontinue, and they do continue and duplicate where we've seen continued movement and forward progress within our organization. Anytime that we have some push and pull with finances or moving in a different direction, we'll make sure we keep the board actively informed, just in case an initiative or a position may be removed, to make certain that we all have a better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish as we move forward. And everything we do will be related to our strategic plan, as that is the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Member Rendon?
You guys, this is a lot of information, and it's a lot to detail when it comes to any of our legislature, a lot of words to decode and things. So every one of you took a lot of time, and I appreciate that. I want to clarify the positions and make understanding. We will suffice and put positions in place according to our student needs. It's not cutting positions. It's allocating based upon the students we have. So I think we want to be careful when we go out to the public and say we're cutting positions, because that's not the case. We are going to allocate positions based upon the number of students we have. We don't anticipate at this point the open positions we already have are because we either A, don't have a position to fill it, a person to fill it, or B, we may not have students in the seats to have that position. So until we actually have, we are not going to not house a classroom with a teacher. I want to make sure we, as a board, we understand that there's not a board member here that would not make sure that every classroom has an allocation for a teacher that it's necessary. Member Gray, I do have a question though. You rattled off about $300 million that were going to be in the hole. Where did you come up with that? Because the figures on page 33 that were provided to us are 13 million, not 300 million.
Do you want me to answer?
Please.
This information came from from Ms. Johnson, where we had, as of January 2023, a loss of $259 million from the FTE due to the growth of the charter school industry. We have a yearly cost of $36.7 million for teacher yearly step increase. House Bill 1259, which you're familiar with, has a share $12.5 million. That's this coming year. House Bill 1 signed into law will translate into possibly over $4 million or more of loss. And in addition, on the data that's presented, and I just wrote that quickly down. You see it. It's the Florida retirement system has a $15 million price tag that will go up. Utilities, $5 million will go up. Benefits, $18 million will go up. Instructional materials, $18.5 million. Comprehensive reading program that is now we have to take part in is $12.5 million. But even erasing those from this data sheet, this information to your question came to me probably about 4 months ago, and I presented this as part of the rationale for the JUST, that fundamentally and fiscally, that if we do not close schools, we will have a tremendous challenge in being fiscally responsible as these expenditures reveal.
So if I looked at previously in our previous packet we were provided, page 33, it did say $350 million and it gave those calculations. However, I believe you guys provided us with a revised page 33, which actually comes down at, say, a loss of 13, not 350. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I want to make sure publicly we all make sure we're aware that we're looking off the correct calculations of a potential loss of $13 million. And again, we have to adjust and understand that House Bill 1 says that it's a maximum of 20,000 students. If we currently have students in our private schools right now that take advantage of House Bill 1, our homeschool students that are taking advantage of House Bill 1, that won't change our income at all. So this is only a matter of 20,000 students statewide that would be reflected on House Bill 1 when it comes to the money going outside of our district. Now, that does not address charter schools. And that is something that I personally, as a board member, have a lot of confidence in the staff that we have in Hillsborough County, that we are doing a phenomenal job providing the resources, the teachers, and the education that we are going to win the charter school option because of the education we're providing here in Hillsborough County. I want to make it very clear to the public that House Bill 1 only is an additional 20,000 students that honestly could be used, and that funding is going to go from the state directly to potential private schools, home schools, that would never affect our dollars here. It is true. It is true because that 20,000 students is statewide. And if I have a son that's at a private school or a daughter that's at a private school and I asked for that money, it was money we were never getting and we will never see or never had. It's the money goes from the state to the school, not to us. So we've got to be careful on how we really publicly make sure that people have an understanding of where the money goes. Now, charter schools, absolutely. The new capital outlay is estimated right now to be about $5 million, 4.5, roughly $5 million. That is unexpected. It comes from our capital outlay money that we are using. It is money that will not be able to go directly into our schools, not directly to students, not directly to teachers, but money that we would be using for other school activities, other school functions. But we do need to be careful and understand that it does give the flexibility to charter schools, and I think that's a key factor that we want to be aware of. So thank you so much for bringing that in. One of the other questions I had is we had between page 10 and 11 in our notebooks, you guys had a slide that was not included. And it had a lot of really good information. That was a lot of detail that we did not have it included. And it was House Bill 1069. So it goes from required policy update, and then it goes directly into legislative changes. And I think there's a page missing that was in a slide that detailed a lot of different details.
Okay, we'll check that out.
Okay.
I'm not aware of
It was a lot of good information. I believe Member Gray even quoted some of it. I can't go back to tell you exactly what that was just because I lost my place.
I don't know if it may have been slides, what are 8 and 9, which we will be covered on the June 26th workshop. maybe that's it, because those two will be covered on June 26th. But if not, we cannot talk offline.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that we get, it was a lot of really good information on that, so that, I think that's important. And then the other, the one, I want to go back to financial pieces when it comes to our categoricals. These are categoricals that we were required for before. We're not getting additional money, but were we getting additional money before for each one of these?
Yes, this depends on the student count.
Okay, so it depends on the student count. So the other factor is, though, if we have a categorical here that we're not utilizing at all, we get to shift that money and use it in some other way we need it, correct?
That's correct.
As long as we maintain the standard of what the categorical was. So, for example, our instructional materials. If we are at a place where we've gotten all the instructional materials we need and we've got $3 million left, we now can shift it, which we didn't have that flexibility. That money was just gone, correct?
The money wasn't gone, it just rolls over into our fund balance, but that is correct.
Okay. And then I did have a question when it came to, I thought I had another one. I think I clarified all that. Okay, thank you guys so much. I appreciate that.
And I just wanted to add, the different other categoricals, they are restricted for that purpose only, but now the flexibility, they are no longer restricted for that purpose.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Gray?
Yeah, and I just want to, not to beat a dead horse, when we talk about our fiscal liabilities or expenditures, we're reminded that this particular list on page 33 does not reveal the cost of the upgrade of the teacher salary, which comes up to $36.7 million, nor does it reveal the loss of FTE through the year previous. The FTE loss of charter schools, and Ms. Johnson, you do need to make a comment. You know it's substantial, and Dr. DeLange, you know that also. I kept track of the loss for year after year. So when we're looking at a limited amount of deficits as revealed in 33, yes, it looks like 13 million because that's what it says. It does not reflect the reality of a total loss of FTE year after year from the charter school industry, nor does it show on this particular page the 39 million or whatever is going to be costing, 36.7, with the addition of teacher salaries. And that cannot be disputed because that was one of the hard decisions we made. And of course, we all know teachers to be in the classrooms are the best antidote for a good education. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to get back to the questions that I have from this packet that we all have received. This goes to Ms. Welch. Ms. Welch, when we talk about House Bill 1537, and I'm looking at where it relates to school grades, assessments, and accountability, student behavior. So one of the things that I'm concerned with, and our teachers are, and of course our leadership, we have a huge discipline problem in our schools. Our teachers face it every day. And our policy now has been adopted by and signed, so to speak, by our school board, our particular, discipline policy. I'll get the name in a minute. It's got a better name than that. But now this particular bill reflects a trend towards zero tolerance. And then, of course, right before the late 1970s and 80s, and Sheikh, you remember this, we had a zero tolerance policy that principals had to adhere to, which was pretty tough. This particular, and Ms. Welch, if you'll maybe command a little bit of attention to that, this also suggests that our discipline policy will have a tendency to go to zero tolerance. Now, Superintendent Davis, you may want to also clarify that, but can you give me an idea legislatively of how they're dealing with the zero tolerance?
We'll
as
get
in
back.
House Bill? Yes.
I know Ms. Burkett and I have been working on this language, and so we'll get back to you. I know she's been in the room. We certainly can address this, but can I circle back with you in terms of the language? I know we are already in compliance when we reviewed the language in the bill and related to this, but if I can just circle back with you specifically, because I know what you're talking about in the Student Code of Conduct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Fair enough. My next question is regarding the LGBTQ+. This is Ashley Capucci oversees this particular one, and this is reflecting on House Bill 1069. And the questions I have, and let me give you a chance to get to that. One of the concerns, or there are a few concerns, and I'm looking at it from a teacher's lens. So when we start saying that teachers are, there's actually a form now that, according to this, and I don't know how the rulemaking has finished it, that if teachers are using the wrong pronoun, they can absolutely have a student can write on a form that was done. And the teachers have so much bureaucracy already, and I just shudder to think what more can they possibly have that can inflate their challenges. But what criteria, if you know it at all, will our teachers expect, and are we providing PD so they know how to navigate this pronoun usage? Ms. Capucci?
Just to be clear, it would actually live in.
I guess maybe Araceli can address this, but Ms. Gray, I'm not aware of a form that we can look into that. I'm not aware of a form that's prescribed in House Bill 1069 related to the preferred title or pronoun usage.
It's in the meat of the.
Okay.
It's in the details of the bill.
Okay.
And I have it right in front of me here. So, but it begs the question. The generalistic question is, how are we set up for future PD? And that would probably share in the communication context for many of these bills as it affects our teachers. But let's just take this one.
Yeah. Before I turn it over to Araceli, just a couple things. So there's several different layers to 1069 and a lot of different staff members who are involved. And as we know, we'll go into the next workshop with some of those extra details. But when it comes to reproductive health and the PD around that and what teachers can and cannot do, that definitely will be covered at their professional study day and having PD around that.
I'm sorry, and I know Superintendent Davis also wanted to speak about the PD. Superintendent Davis?
Yes, Madam Chair. I think one of the things we need to understand is that next week's our Leadership Institute, we will be providing legislative updates to all of our principals and assistant principals and district staff about how these new legislations will be implemented and what will need to be turnkeyed as they come back for not only professional study day, but also early, pre-planning with their teachers to be able to walk through some of these major scenarios so they understand what they can and cannot do for implementation. So that'll be part of our big focus for next week as we get to our Leadership Institute to be able to expedite some of this training and make sure they have the resources as they start the school year for next year for pre-planning.
Okay, and let me just, Madam Chair, may I just conclude?
Yes. Ray?
So my conclusion statement, and just to edify the statement that I made about a form, it's called an objection form. And those objection forms, whether they're going to be real or not, again, need to be addressed, in my opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. That is in House Bill 1069, and that's, as Ms. Capucci highlighted, there are many different provisions in the bill, and so that actually is part of the instructional materials and in the objection. And that will be covered at the June 26th workshop. That's not related to the preferred title or pronouns.
Okay. I'll get with you behind the scenes, and I definitely agree. A mention was made by a board member, the importance of having these type of bills in a wordsmith way that the public can digest, because as you can see, what I'm seeing here in the meat of the topic of the bill and what you all are seeing are not congruent, and that worries me as well, because we can't give mixed messages. It has to be factual. Agreed that the rulemaking still is going to be done, but still, there seems to be some, not a confluence of accuracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank Christian Davis and the committee. You've done a good job. This is very difficult to deal with because we just started into it, and I very well understand that. We have a lot of work, and we know the work can't be done all of a sudden because some of the bills just came in, the House bills and laws he signed into just came in, so you have to have time in order to do that. I understand that part of it, which is very important. So I'm quite confident that we are going to do what we need to do because it's the law. It's signed in. So I don't have any discretion that we're not going to do what we're supposed to do. It takes time. And a lot of these questions you don't have because we just it just came into effect. It's signed and come into effect July 1. So I just want to tell you, just make sure once we start doing the updates, which is very important, is to make sure that we communicate with the community and parents so they'll know exactly what's going on. So we don't have to panic and get alarmed. Hey, look, we're doing just fine. Believe me, it's just going to take time in order for us to complete the task and do the things that we need to do. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Vaughn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, it takes a while to hit that unmute button. So I appreciate it. Member Gray, I was the board member who requested this be shared with the public, just to clarify. But I wanted to just kind of circle back to some things that I feel like were left a little bit uncertain. So I know we've had a lot of conversation about the categoricals, but Ms. Johnson, you said that previously, if those categoricals weren't used, they went into our general fund. So by taking those away and not providing extra money for that and sticking it in the per pupil funding, really we're not getting any more flexibility because if the money wasn't spent, it rolled into our general fund anyway. It's just eating away at the extra money we would have gotten per pupil. Am I misunderstanding that?
Mrs. Vaughn, that money rolls into the fund balance and becomes restricted. It's still for that specific purpose. But now, since we have flexibility with the money, it's no longer restricted. We still have expenses associated with that categorical money that we have to allocate that resource to. But any leftover will become unrestricted and part of our general fund.
Okay, thank you. You said our fund balance. I heard general fund. That's the difference. So now, as opposed to it going into where we would save the money, we are now going to have it in our general fund, but we're still overall getting a wash when it comes to the amount of money that we'll be getting from the state, whether it's in categorical or not. When you move those categoricals that we were getting extra funding for into this new formula, we're not really seeing an increase with our per pupil amount of money that we're going to be getting. Is that correct?
No, we haven't seen an increase at all. That resource become part of the base, and we still have expenditures associated, so we have to allocate that resource based on those expenditures now.
Okay. I anticipate we'll talk more about this, as we talk about our budget and we formalize that. Also, thank you, Superintendent Davis, for committing to the fact that regardless of what our funding is, you're going to make sure that when schools need extra resources, especially when we're talking about staff, that you're committing to make sure they have what they need. I appreciate that. And I want to clarify, when I say I'm concerned about staff reduction in our education system, I'm not as concerned about classroom teachers specifically. Thank you for pointing that out, Member Rendon. However, what I am concerned about is the extra support that it takes, especially since we are the ones who service so much of our exceptional student population, because a lot of our charter schools aren't able to service those students and they come back to us. So while every class might have a classroom teacher, and whether or not those are overcrowded classrooms, we'll have to talk about, especially since now we see that the state, even though it's part of our state constitution, we have a classroom amendment, isn't going to honor that by imposing any penalties for for any classes that are overcrowded, and with the formula of the classes being per building and not actually classes, it's convoluted anyway. However, I am concerned that, you know, what we did when Superintendent Davis came in is align ourselves to what the state thinks we should allocate per pupil. And then for a district our size, with the amount of need that we have, that doesn't mirror a lot of our other districts, that always ends up being more. And even though I know we've been very proactive about trying to make sure we have what we need in our schools, ever since we had to do some of our reductions to come online, I've been hearing concerns from parents nonstop. I mean, I know that when the other school board members went to our middle school and high school forums, we heard a plethora of how it's so hard to navigate going to college without college advisors, and how that's been switched to our counselors, and our counselors don't necessarily have the bandwidth to do that specifically. There are so many jobs that we have to provide extra services for, and that's what I'm concerned about. So again, I anticipate that we'll have more conversation about that going forward. And then lastly, my last question is, here's where I'm additionally confused. If we're not losing money, let's just, you know, talk about homeschool parents. If we're not losing money on homeschool parents, where is that money coming from? Because there's only so much money that our property taxes can generate to go towards education, period. It's not like from my understanding, unless I'm wrong, and I hope you're going to tell me this, Ms. Johnson, the state has allocated a whole other pot for these extra fundings of homeschool parents. There's still a limited amount of money that we can, as a county, whether now it's going to be for charter schools, private schools, public schools, everything that's associated with public tax dollars, that we can take in due to the cap that was placed on tax revenue. So if it's not coming, if it's not going to come out of our budget, if there's not going to be less money to go around, how are these additional school options being funded, Ms. Johnson?
Well, being a part of FAFP and the term process, the state has the right to allocate and set the rate, and that means they can raise taxes. And that's how they increase their funding source each year, fiscal year.
So we're anticipating that to pay for this, taxes are going to go up?
It's a possibility. I don't know for sure.
Okay. Again, I'm sure we'll have more conversation as this unfolds. Again, I appreciate the patience of my fellow board members and everyone who's answered my questions. Thanks again.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Chair Combs. First, I want to thank Ms. Davis and everyone that's presented here this morning. Obviously, a lot of work went into this, so I greatly appreciate it. I agree with my board members to have something palatable for the public, so it kind of, you know, breaks it down into more maybe buckets and user-friendly format. That would be great if we could put that on the website. You know, I was really appreciate all the comments and questions from my colleagues. And, you know, I'm happy to see that during the legislative session, there seemed to be a really strong focus on students and families, especially when we look at reading and math and CTE and the changes that are being made in those areas are really very student focused, and the fact that families are going to be informed along the way is really important, as we all always talk about the importance of parental engagement around the academic success of students. There's going to be obviously looking at the regs, you know, a lot of policy updates that we need to make at the school district level. Can we talk through, and I know we've had some conversations at our board retreats around this, but can we talk through our workshops and how are they going to be done, whether it's quarterly or, you know, around reviewing and getting consensus on new policies that will come to the board eventually. So how frequent are we going to have those? Because lately it feels like there's not a real tight timeline for those. And then what are the deadline dates for the board or the staff to submit draft policy that will be reviewed and discussed at those workshops? Is it 2 weeks before the workshop? Is it usually it's a month? So, and we've used in the past it's been a very tight quarterly, but COVID kind of interrupted all that, and I feel like we've never gotten back on a timeline. So I'm never sure, like, when the window's open for me to submit policy. And then, lately there's been policy submitted like 3 days before we're going to review it at a workshop instead of waiting for the next policy cycle. People have been able to slip stuff in at the last minute. And so I just want to get a really clear timeline on all of this, because obviously a lot is going to come and we need to be able to digest it, and also have opportunity to work with staff and Ms. Davis and Mr. Porter on drafting new policy.
If I can respond, Madam Chair, you are spot on, Member Hahn, about everything you said. Spot on. Your next policy workshop is August 1st, and the most critical thing you said was that we did have this codified and institutionalized, and COVID sort of put paid to that. Your next policy workshop is on August 1st. Ms. Davis and I talked before this meeting today that she and Mr. Gibson and I will be getting together well before then to create more of a process for you. But also, the August 1st workshop will be designed mainly to implement the policies we have to by state law, but will also be an opportunity for the board members to introduce new policies. And then we can, at that time...
What is the deadline? If August 1st is the workshop, what's the deadline for introducing new policy?
we will, what do you think, Ms. Davis? So,
Is it a month? It used to be a month.
well, while she's getting ready to answer, what I'll note is we've established deadlines in the past, and board members just quite frankly have not honored those. And so when we need, that's a collective decision. So we have always taken the position, if you submit something late, we're still going to try to do it. That's up to you all. If you give us the authority to say no to you, then that will be helpful.
Yeah, I think that needs to be the way of work.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you because...
I think it needs to be in the way of work, because then it's, Ms. Hahn wanted something put in, and it's a week before, and, I get it. You don't want to be the one to say to me or anybody else no, even though,
We're happy to say no, but I just want to make sure you understand.
because then, maybe Member Rendon is then put in an awkward position of, well, wait, I need more than a week or a couple days time to really, research and maybe counter what I'm doing or come up, it's just, and then she's put in that awkward position, and then you've got to go around and call board members and say, well, are you okay? And then, it could become adversarial.
It does become adversarial. It does.
It does.
Not can, it does.
And so I'm trying to avoid that. And I think if we could agree to a hard deadline, 2 weeks, that, I don't know, we can come to consensus on that at some other time. But we're August 1st, if it's 2 weeks, if it's 3 weeks, whatever it may be. I don't know how my other members feel. Love to hear about that, because again, I'm bringing it up now because we can't talk to each other outside of this. So I'd like to really nail down a timeline for this. And then are we going to have quarterly workshops around policy? Is it, okay, so, August 1st is the next one. And then can we get those hard dates? Then we can back into maybe if we agree on 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we can back into that and give hard dates for policy submission. And then everybody just kind of knows the way of work around policy, because right now it's feeling a little wonky, unstable.
Sure. Why don't we do this? Why don't
Ms.
Davis and I present something to you at your June 26th workshop to sort of encapsulate the things you said. And if other board members have comments, I'll reach out to you individually about what your thoughts are. And then we can have something the board can react to as opposed to just pointing it off the cuff. I appreciate the comments. I think, again, spot on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Member Hahn. And I think what we can do is we can come up with a timeline. I can give you some dates, and we can communicate, and then Mr. Porter will communicate with each of you. Because I think that's one of the most important things. There's so many policies, there's so many changes, and we want to make sure that we're abiding by the law and we're abiding with all those changes and making sure that we're working more and more. But thank you again, Kristen Davis. Did you want to say something?
Real quick, I just wanted to follow up with Dr. Hahn's comments. So we did, from some comments, so I know initiated by Member Rendon and even other board members, we did have 4 policy workshops this year. I know we had one in January. We had another one scheduled that did get pushed a few times, and so that did not take place. It was pushed a few times, unfortunately. So the third one that was on the calendar is now August 1, and the fourth one that's on the calendar is October 24th.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and I also thank you. I think every board member talked about the importance of the community outreach with all these laws, especially I think teachers are concerned and they want to know where they stand and where things are. And I think it's really important that it's embedded in professional development and every teacher knows going in, because I think that is one of the concerns that teachers have. And I guess one of my comments is, you know, when we look at Florida and we know it is one of the highest rates of inflation right now nationally, and Tampa particularly has the highest rate of inflation throughout. And when we look at the base student allocation, I'm constantly hearing on the media how it's increased by millions and there's so many millions of more money spent in education. But that's not necessarily true, because millions of more students are actually coming to Florida. So my question is, I know we were at the very bottom. I think we were the 48th worst funded nationally. Where are we now? And you don't have to answer that now. Where are we as far as funding? Because we know the inflation is very high. And where are we as far as funding? Because I think it's very important that the communities and people know where we are as far as funding, because it's very misleading when you see the base student allocation has increased. Well, the needs have increased, and also even building a school has almost increased by 50%. So we're looking at every single contract increasing by 25 to 50%, and the base student allocation doesn't really look at that. So that's where I want to know where we are as far as nationally ranked, where we are as far as paying our teachers, and where we are as far as the base student allocation, because I do think we're very low on that. And then the other thing is, when you look at HB 1537, as far as sharing the capital outlay, will we also be now able to get some of those PICO dollars that we were never able to get? Now that it's opened up to the charter schools to receive capital outlay, are we going to receive PICO dollars?
That is not part of the law.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure and clarify that, you know, because I think sometimes it's very misleading when it looks like we do so much and have such a great product and our students are doing so well, but it's very misleading with the funding. So I want to make sure we clarify that. And then finally, you know, I am all for parent choice, but the biggest thing is that there is some oversight. So my question is, as far as House Bill 1, we don't know what it's going to look like. I don't think people imagined that a church would double their tuition for students, right? There's things that are changing. The goal of the law was to allow students to have different choices at charter, homeschool, private school. But now what we're seeing is some of those places now increasing tuition by 50% or more, and those students are not going to be able to, you know, attend those schools. So what does it look like as far as the oversight for that testing, homeschool, when we're testing our students starting in kindergarten? Are they going to be tested as well in homeschool and other environments to make sure there's accountability for taxpayer money?
I'd be happy to jump in. Okay. In terms of Member Combs' House Bill 1, I know you won't see any necessarily changes, I mean, in terms of private schools. And then home education, there are 2 routes. There's the traditional homeschool route, which you're familiar with, and then the personalized education plan, which does add some requirements in terms of norm reference testing, and be happy to provide those details.
Because we're providing the FAST testing multiple times a year for our students. I mean, I would imagine that we would want to do the same thing for other students to make sure that we're creating a society that's educated and that those tax dollars are going to make sure that students are receiving a great education. So I guess that's just my question. Superintendent Davis, you want to comment on that?
Yes, Madam the Chair. I think, thank you, KD. I think she addressed there is accountability measures for homeschool related to progress monitoring, that students have to meet thresholds and parents have to have checkups to determine the evaluation of how well their student is progressing in that particular space. As it relates to being able to be funded for PICO dollars, there will not be any qualifications for district managed schools. However, if the board wishes to be able to transition to a district managed charter in which this board drives, then you'll be eligible for any startup funding, any PICO dollars, capital dollars, to be able to bring back to the district to be able to set that up. That'll be an innovative solution that they'll be able to recoup some of the money that's transitions to charter schools, and we could run it. And this was particularly well in career technical education centers. I do believe that this could be a particular opportunity for our new construction and magnet academies if the district wanted to move in that direction, and you would generate a lot of money to be able to set that up from the district.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Davis. And I just had a question, I guess, since you know that with the homeschooling, what does that test look like? I mean, is it similar to FAST? Is the parent conducting the test? So I just want to make sure, I'm just looking at the oversight.
Yes, Madam Chair, we'll get that information to you, and we'll talk about the frequency and what assessments they use.
Okay, thank you very much. Member
Yes,
Gray?
ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Getting back Member Hahn, we did have a history of 3 months between the policy cycle, but I definitely applaud the suggestion of having finite deadlines. So I am agreeing with you because, as at least from my own point of view, as an individual school board member, I see a slew of new bills which might, and I'm looking at the very last pages, it definitely calls us to make those policy changes. And this is on page 1 on the addendum. It says Hillsborough County Public School actions as a result of legislation enacted in 2023, and then requires our board action. Well, many of them say no board action, but yet we don't have the rulemaking done. So I don't know if that's accurate. However, many of them are saying yes. So there are bills that say, yes, we need board action. And to that point of your comment, Member Hahn, I definitely think that we need to have a very good, hardened type system to follow. So at any rate, that's my mention. My question is, who decided that we have board action or not? Ms. Davis?
That's based on, thank you, Member Gray. That's based on language that's in the bill and whether it requires any specific board action in the law itself. To your point, and this document is more of a guide. This was put together based on feedback from board members, and will be continually monitored and updated. It should not be looked at as a static document that you'll see today and will look the same in 6 months. It should be continually reviewed by staff and updated, because to your point, rulemaking from DOE may come out and require us to update some policies or procedures depending on how district by district circumstances.
And Ms. Davis, I have to applaud, and I think we all do, the staff members who have been working tirelessly in updating curriculums, updating acronyms, everything to comply with these bills. And I know that's an ongoing basis, and I just want to say thank you for that. My question is, and I'm going right back to the bills, the one where Member Valdez, this is House Bill 443. The question is about lack of less oversight, and this Member Combs may also broaden your question as well. On the bottom here, and I'm on the Florida School Board Association site, but you'll know about it. What are the chances of getting more community schools? There's a recommendation and a pro-community school movement. It says, with respect to community schools, the current law instructs the Center for Community Schools to prioritize grant awards to districts which the community school model has not been established. Do you have any feedback on that?
Member Gray, if I may jump in. I know that's related to the community school UCF model, and our team and the federal programs and our grants team has reviewed this language. And if there is because it would be a grant program, and so if there is an opportunity for us to apply for it, we certainly will. But I know at this point we're monitoring it, and then we'll see what comes out in terms of implementation and rulemaking.
To the chair, we just so you know, Mort and Sulphur Springs are both community partnership schools per the state model. We have other community partnership schools throughout the district. We are looking at other federal grant monies to support that, while we also consider pursuing some of the state community partnership schools dollars.
Yeah, and this is good news because I'll speak for myself, but many of the board members, or some of them, really are very pleased with the community schools and the effects, the academic effects, and the social emotional effects, and the pragmatic health benefits. One last question, Dr. DeLange. When we talk about charter school oversight, and this relates to, again, House Bill 443, are we at the same level of your office? Can you share how it is now going to be different in terms of the amount of visits, oversight visits?
Well, the biggest difference will be that the DOE will come up with a standard annual site visit template. So we're not sure what that will look like. So we will move forward just regularly as we have been with our own internal protocol until the DOE comes up with their own the standard one.
Okay, so right now we're still the same.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Gray. And we just have a couple, Member Press, you're online. Go ahead, Member Press.
Yes, thank you. I just have a quick question. I've heard several of my board members speaking about the parental rights, and keeping in that same vein. I really appreciate it, rolling with that spirit. And the parental rights are being honored, and as a board member, I truly appreciate that. But with this legislation being passed, the legal rights of all parents, there are many parents whose rights are not being honored and have been overlooked. So how is this being addressed when it comes to this legislation and our schools? And, homeschooling and charter schools is not the answer. I'm speaking about being addressed in our public schools. Can someone answer that for me, please?
I don't know if Superintendent Davis, if you want to take that one, or
yeah,
okay,
yeah, I was waiting on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I have to push a little bit and figure out, where do we believe that parent rights aren't being valued or are not being or are being violated. So I think for us to have a better understanding of how we can help, I just need to understand are there examples that you see within this new legislation that we need to be aware of that we may not have seen.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is it possible that we can have parental feedback as far as these new legislations to provide you with that feedback? I mean, provide you with those spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is for, parents have always had the option to determine whether or not how we can help them be educational advocates. As it relates to legislation, it's in law. Our job is to enact it, and our job as a board is to develop policy. My job as superintendent is to provide procedures. So community, if they want to have any changes related to legislation, how would that legislation interact with the school district, I believe it's their role and responsibility. They can inform us, but they have to be able to work with their local delegations and support staff, representatives, and senators to create any additional spaces they see fit where they want to be able to create change. For us, we will continue to leverage our schools as a welcome place for our parents to help them, navigate through our school district, to be able to help them with their learners. And if they have any issues, we ask our parents to reach out to their administrative staff in their schools to be able to actively engage every single day. And then also, if we see that there's bigger trends and patterns in a particular zip code or community, this is where we work collectively with our family community engagement division to be able to release them to be able to address that particular zip code or that particular pocket of our community to help them become stronger every day. And, this is one of the reasons why, we feel the need to be able to help transition to potential newcomers, to be able to make certain that our parents are interacting with our school district and just really know how to set their student up for success.
Okay. I just want to make sure that our parents don't feel like they're being pushed out.
Yes, ma'am.
Due to legislation out of our public schools, and that their rights are not being honored. As we look at this legislation and how it either targets or does not target certain students, and making sure that our schools are a safe space for all our students.
Absolutely, and our doors will always be open to every one of our students that want to transition and trust in us to educate them, and parents as well. And we'll continue to make sure that safety is our greatest priority every day.
Thank you. That was all I had. But thank you for fighting always for our public schools, to the entire legislation. Pack that goes out and always fights for us.
Thank you, Member Perez. Did you have any more comments? Okay, we'll move on to Member Rendon. We'll close with Member Rendon unless anybody else has anything. Member Rendon?
Thank you. I had a question for Dr. Whalen. We talked about in your presentation about where we're at with those certifications and where we're coming each month. One of the things I think is a hard clarification right now is if somebody had 3 years to get that certification, they then had the ability to get an exception and go on and had an additional 2 years. I didn't remember hearing in the report, were there any of those that were coming up on either this year or next year where we're hitting those 5 years? In my conversations with DOE, there doesn't seem to be any room in the bill currently that gives them that factor of going on past that exception. So even if we had someone that was up at 3 years in, for example, 2020 or 2021, would have made them 5 years now. Where are we at with those numbers for this year and next year? So we make sure we capture those, getting them through the threshold.
We have been working with those. I'll have to get the exact numbers for you of who fell in that, but we have been continuing the same communication with those individuals that this does not apply to you as soon as we got that clarification on March 27th.
Yeah, I think that's important because we want our teachers and we want to make sure as a district we're supporting that. And thank you, Dr. Hahn, for bringing up the workshops regarding our policies. I think that was adamant. I had asked for workshops. That's why we scheduled 4. I don't have clarification why we canceled them, because even if we were in the middle of a legislative year, we have multiple policies that were not affected by any of this legislative. So I will encourage all of the administration and the board members not to cancel any of our policy updates. We have got to maintain those policy workshops moving forward. Like I said, if it's something that could be in process of legislative, we've got 30 more we could address and get those off the books. We need to be better organized. We want to do so. I really do appreciate you bringing that up again, and it is definitely important. I know our other board members feel that way as well. I just want to make sure that we make it consistent. As we move forward, I think it's really critically important that we support all the departments and we support all of our schools. And in order to do that, I think we really need an expertise view of what that looks like. With all of these new changes when it comes to categoricals, when it changes to funding, when it comes to all of the components of how we do business, I think we as a board and as administration, we need to look to what kind of support are we providing to all of our staff, and what does that look like? And I'm going to circle back that I've said for many months now that as a board, we need to, I personally as a board member am recommending that we as a district look at a risk management specialist that they could aid us in financially looking at our how we're moving our money around, how we're moving our categoricals, how we are funding different programs, where we are getting the best return for our students, how we are looking at our schools, and how we are looking and making sure, you remember Vaughn brought up very eloquently about our ESC and our support to those, how we make sure we capture all of those that need IEPs so that we're maximizing our funding We have got to have a person that is leading our risk management department that is going to look at all of our departments from a fiscal point of view, from a safety point of view, from an overall operational point of view, and then last but not least, our overall student experience and outcome measures. And so I think it's really critical that while we're here, we need to make sure we're looking at what that looks like, because we are at a critical time of change, and that is going to be a critical need to make sure that whatever decisions we make, we have got advice that is going to give us the best knowledge of what those risks look like from a health and safety, from a financial, and from a student outcome perspective. It's critically important. So, I do want to thank you all for everything you do. It's clearly, I stand behind our schools. I stand behind Hillsborough County Schools, and I have a faith that our community is going to choose our schools because of our teachers, because of the work that each and every one of you in this room do. And that's why we are here, and that's why our students choose to be in our schools every day, because of the excellent education Hillsborough County gives them. My family is a product of that, and I'm very proud to say that my children are products of that because of the work that each and every one of you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Davis, did you have any other comments?
No, ma'am. I just want to thank our staff. Our staff has been working tirelessly. This legislation session was really rapid this year. A lot of stuff moving in language moving really rapidly. So, we'll continue to be able to look for technical assistant papers, work with the Department of Education to better understand how to implement some of these elements. And we'll make certain that we articulate that clearly to not only to the board, to our community, to our staff, and to our school-based leaders and district-based leaders as well. So thank you. We look forward to any one-on-ones for board members that aspire to have one-on-ones, and we'll actively engage. But once again, so proud of KD and our staff for what they continue to do and provide this space today. And also our legal for Mr. Porter, Mr. Gibson. They've been wonderful as well.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And this meeting is adjourned.